Hi everyone, Gabester here with another Starcraft 2 commentary guide. This video is for the Infestation challenge, and it will show you how to get a gold ranking on that achievement, which requires that you kill at least 150 of the enemy units using your Roach and Infestor army. And this particular video, I also wanted to challenge myself a bit to see if I could kill every unit and building. And so this is actually a perfect run, killing all 219 enemy units, and I also do so without losing any of my own units. So if you want to go the extra mile, this will show you kind of how to do that. Anyway, I'm going to play it in normal speed, mostly from first person perspective, but I will pause it or change it when I need to point things out. So the first thing I do here is set up my control groups. You'll see at the bottom there, I basically take half the roaches and put them into group 1, and then half the infestors group 2, the other half roaches 3, and the other half infestors group 4. And the numbers don't really matter, this is just how I did it, just kind of how they were set up here. But the important thing, in my opinion, is to split them off about even, and then you quickly send those two groups, one to the bottom left and one to the bottom right, so they can sort of spread out quickly. And you'll see why in a moment here. Also, note that the roaches can block your infestors underground. But once you split them off, the first thing you want to do is pick 2 infestors and immediately send them next to the tanks. And remember that siege tanks have a minimum fire distance range around them. So what I like to do is to pick one infestor while they're all moving over, click him underneath the tank or right next to it, and then while holding shift, hit R. And what that will do is that will cue the unburrow command. And that's just a basic way to allow you to multitask a little easier. So you might move this guy and unburrow him with Q, and then do the same to this guy, and then once you come back to this one, he'll be up. So as soon as he pops up, hit E, and that will of course use your neural parasite, get him on the tank. And the overall strategy for getting this perfect run achievement, getting all the units, is just speed and taking advantage of the most powerful units you can charm as quickly as possible. The other thing is to try to have your roaches active as much as possible, even though I fail on that a few times. But if you can keep your units alive and do proper charming, then it becomes a lot easier. By charming, I mean neural parasite. So anyway, you quickly want to get these first 2 tanks on either side. And I should be getting this one pretty soon once I notice it. And the next thing you want to do is move this one infestor up here, and if you put him in the right position, he can pop up and not get attacked. The important thing to note is that the stationary units like these won't attack your units if you're out of range. They won't actually actively move. So this guy pops up and charms this Colossus. Meanwhile, I've got roaches down here. Actually, I should back that up a little, show you what happens here. So during the initial move, I take my left group of roaches, I click them under this area, and then I shift click R again. So that forces them to unburrow. As soon as they come up, they'll kill these three marines. And then run them down here, target the marauder first. And you'll probably have to burrow one of the roaches, whichever was targeted first, so he doesn't die. But after that, then you can kind of leave him alone and do your other stuff. So anyway, up here we've got the Colossus charmed. When you get a chance, you want to shift Q him to attack things, but otherwise just leave him be. And the next step is to get this tank here. So this position, pull this off here. This position for this infestor is really important. He's just out of range of this tank up here, and he won't get attacked by the Colossus. So you get the tank first, then you can take another infestor and grab the Colossus. And then what I like to do is take the Colossus and attack this group of units down here, and that way once they're dead, then I can freely move my roaches in to help with buildings. Meanwhile, take another infestor up top once you grab this Colossus, and if you have maximum range, you can charm this tank before it can attack you. Then I put it in siege mode and it starts pelting things. And then next is this tank here. Again, you move your infestor from this path down here, put him right next to it so he won't get attacked, and charm the tank. There will be a group of Marines here, so the faster you can get a unit down here, it'll give these tanks up here line of sight. Once this bottom platform is cleared, and I know I'm speaking quickly trying to show you everything, but once this area here is cleared, this sort of second landing, then these two tanks, the original two at the top, serve no purpose any longer. And if you're going for total kills, even units that you have charmed count as an enemy. So what I like to do is, once this area is clear, I move both these tanks down, unsiege them, move them down, and that way when I'm ready to kill them, I can just take this siege tank on either side and force attack it on my charmed unit. Meanwhile, these roaches should be clearing these buildings, and you've taken your Colossus that killed the units and gone back up here. And the next thing, I should show you this as well. Let me back up. So yeah, that Colossus there, you want to provide line of sight for your tanks as quickly as possible, so that way they're just firing it at units as much as possible. So one of the things to do that is to get a unit down here burrowed, and this Colossus will be in range of these tanks. And you can charm the Colossus obviously, but because this tank is here, it sort of just makes it a hassle, because you have to bring another infestor down and charm the Colossus quickly, and then you can get this guy in, get the tank. But I actually found it easier to just let this Colossus die, and that way I can take this infestor, move it next to this tank, and charm that immediately. And then from that point, you'll see the next thing you do is take your free infestor now, and there's a Templar, High Templar over here that is really helpful to charm. Get him charmed, and then there's a couple units behind the mineral patch that you want to storm. The idea at this point is you've got everything pretty much clear that's dangerous, or you've got it charmed in the top two tiers, and you're just kind of getting these last units that could actually do you harm. Once those are charmed or dead, then these units won't move, so you just want to find a way to get those taken out. And once all the units are dead, there's a pack here, and one here, I believe. Once those are all dead, then you can freely take your roaches and just let them do their thing in the base. Meanwhile, don't forget about your Colossus up here. You can see I queue up a number of attacks, eventually get these as well. And that's just, again, to help your Colossus, who won't automatically attack these units, to actually do so without you having to manually do it. You can be busy doing other things. So anyway, get back to this here. So we can see this Colossus getting taken out, and I'm just sort of waiting for him to get dropped, and then I'll take the siege tank. And getting these roaches into the battle again. And you can see my tanks moving down, as I mentioned. I'll go to the player camera here, you can kind of see. So I'm bringing my infestor down to the middle to provide line of sight, and get him ready to charm this Templar. So once these Marines here are taken out, then you can freely pop this guy up. Just don't get too close to this group. And remember that Infestor Mineral Parasite has a limited use range, so if the unit moves too far away, then it drops the charm, which is sometimes what you want, but in this case you want to use your charm closer to the command center so that your Templar can actually reach the second group up here. So at this point I think there might be units up here, or they might be dead, I can't remember. Looks like that's it. So yeah, now you've cleaned up everything except your charmed units. So you kind of want to just get your roaches in the mix, and they'll start taking out SCVs and all that good stuff. And then at this point, if you're going for the sort of kill everything challenge, which you can say for yourself, then try to get your Colossus, your tank here, these tanks, move them down. Sort of just focus everything more towards the center so that you'll be able to quickly travel around and kill off charmed units. And you can see this tank gets stuck. He's trying to path down to here, but you know, little buggy there. So eventually I noticed that. So let's see. Oh, the other thing to keep in mind is unsieged tanks do more DPS, more damage per second to buildings than siege tanks. So as long as unsieged tank can hit what you want, is in range, then it's best to unsiege them. So you can see here, I move this guy out so that I can transfer the charm, since it's out of range over here. And then I use him to help kill the Colossus. And remember, Colossus don't really get any bonuses to attacking armored, but the tanks get a bonus to attacking armored. So it's better that your tanks are used to kill your charmed Colossus than vice versa. So you can see I kill that Colossus. And then I'm just sort of cleaning up the base. So right now we're only left with one tank there. Everything in the base is dead. So I uncharm, kill him. Now I got just these 2 tanks left. And you see we've got plenty of time left. So this challenge, or whatever you want to call it, that I set for myself, took a number of attempts, probably a dozen or so, just to kind of get used to it. And I found that I'm not very good at micro in regular Starcraft, but this actually helps you practice a lot. So I highly recommend trying it just to see how quick you can get. And it's a lot of fun to get used to, you know, queuing this movement or that action or whatever. So anyway, that's it. And if you use any of these sort of tips, you should be able to get gold pretty easily. But if you want to push yourself, try for all 219. I recommend it.